Do you have reservations about food preservation? Hello and welcome to WJTS in.form. We're going to find out about home food preservation in this edition of In.form. Joining us in the studio is Jan Dougan. She is the County Extension Educator for Du Bois County, and there is so much that we learned from you, and today we're going to learn about food preservation because now that produce starts coming in from our gardens, we're going to have to do something with it. We don't want to just let it waste.
Well, believe it or not, there are different individuals that do home food preservation year-round, because sometimes folks will go ahead and freeze some produce and to make into jams or jellies later on. That would be the fruit, or to make salsa or something later on. They might put the tomatoes in the freezer. So, you know, it goes on year-round. We think of it gearing up for this, you know, when we think about gardens and we think about the produce coming in, but this past winter, I participated in an online home food preservation course to just help me with my skills and my expertise so that I would be ready to answer questions and provide information to those who live here in Du Bois County this year as we move forward with home food preservation.
Let me ask you maybe one thing, that because things change over time.
Yes.
We learn new things, we develop new ways of doing things. And I'm sure there's myths that go along with food preservation at home. Canning is really what we're talking about, canning and freezing. What is the biggest myth that you would like to dispel from people?
I think the biggest myth is that I want people to throw away old recipes. I have an old cookbook that I brought with me, and the cookbook is from my mother's canner. So the canning directions are appropriate, but some of the recipes are inappropriate and not safe to use. Because I think our key focus needs to be food safety when we're working with home food preservation. And so we want to, you know, just because grandma did it doesn't mean that it's right for us to do today that way. And I can give a perfect example with tomatoes. Okay. Because I'm sure that when my grandmother processed tomatoes, she did it in a boiling water bath canner, and she did not add any acid to it at all, because tomatoes are high acid. Tomatoes are still higher in acid, but there are so many varieties available to us that we don't know the acidity level of tomatoes. So whenever we process tomatoes today, it's important to add an acid. That could be a lemon juice or that could be a vinegar, but we need to add a little to each jar to make sure that the acid level is appropriate to prevent the foodborne pathogens from growing that could make us sick. Because that's the last thing we want to do, is make any of our family members sick, right?
Right.
So we don't want to use cracked jars. We don't want to use the old blue canning jars. I'm sure no one is using those because they could get more money for them on eBay anyway as an antique. But you know, we want to use regulation canning jars. We want to follow safe, research-based, reliable information in doing any of our home food preservation. And you can probably find a recipe that's similar to grandma's, so you have that same flavor that you can enjoy, but follow the new procedures. So I've got some references I want to share with everyone. One of the references that is available, it's called So Easy to Preserve. And this is a cookbook that is available from the University of Georgia. You can go online, you could Google So Easy to Preserve, and the ordering information would come up for you. Maybe you don't Google, maybe you do something else. That's sort of a
That's what everybody says
term
nowadays.
now,
Sure,
isn't
sure.
it? I
Go
thought
and
of
search
that.
the web.
Search the web.
Yeah.
Search the web for So Easy to Preserve. If you'd like to look at a copy before you do that, you're welcome to come into my office and look at a copy. But the information is also free online. You can just go and search for So Easy to Preserve, and this cookbook is available online that you can read. I just like to have a cookbook in my kitchen when I'm doing some things, and home food preservation is one of those things. I like to have a cookbook readily accessible for me. So this has reliable, research-based, up-to-date information on canning, freezing, or drying. There are several methods of home food preservation that we can use. And that's probably one of my favorite references, We also have another reference, and we sell these over at the Extension office. So if you'd like to pick up one, they cost $15. It's just what they cost us. It's a complete guide to home canning. It's from the USDA. This is also available free online. So if you just want an online access, you can look at it and you can get information, and you can get specific information on, if you want to process green beans, you want to process tomatoes, you want to do some jams or jellies. There's recipes in here that you can use, and there's also information on following proper procedure. Then there's another resource that's a little less expensive and a very good resource, and it's research-based and reliable, and it's the Old Ball Blue Book. And you can find this in our county wherever they sell canning supplies. This is going to be available to you. You could also order it online, doing a search through the internet. But this will probably cost you maybe about $7. So it's a little less. I find that the recipes in the Ball Blue Book are maybe a little bit more creative recipes. So it's not just blueberry jam, it's maybe spiced blueberry jam. So if you're looking for something a little special or different that you'd like to do, this would be a great reference for you. So those are three great references. Two of them are available free online. So, the information is out there. You can also call the Extension office or call your Extension office, and they will have access to information, and there are different bulletins that are from Purdue University about specific topics when it comes to home food preservation. But, you think about it, and getting prepared for it, and thinking about the equipment that you need and the resources that you need.
Is there a resurgence for home canning or home preserving compared to maybe 20 years ago?
I think there is, and the individuals that I talk to, it's for different reasons. Mm-hmm. Did your mother?
My mother canned.
Can?
Yes.
And why did she can?
I don't know. I never really asked her. I think mostly to save money.
Yeah, probably so. To save money, or it was what they did because they had huge gardens and they didn't want to waste anything or lose anything and not really sell anything, so they processed those foods so that they would have them to eat later on, but primarily as a money-saving opportunity. If you really look at the information about home food preservation and you compare the canning costs for equipment and whether you grow produce or buy produce, and then your time that you invest into home food preservation, you do not save money today by processing your foods at home. If you really take that into consideration, your time. So people today, younger people today, they're doing it because they enjoy the process, they're having fun with it, but the thing I hear the most is, I want to know where my food came from. Mm-hmm. And if I grow it and if I process it, then I know what I'm feeding my family, and I know that it's safe, and I know that it's healthy for them to eat.
And they know where it came from.
Exactly.
And then there's that sense of pride, too.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I agree.
To learn new things. What's easier? I guess I know what's easier. Freezing is probably the easiest thing to do to preserve. And I don't think years ago we did much freezing, maybe because we didn't have as good plastic containers to save things in. It seems like now there's a lot of things that are readily available to freeze things in. But if you freeze, there's some steps you have to do. You can't just take that vegetable and put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer. Some things you have to blanch.
Well, there are some things you have to blanch, and that's a good term. Not everything, not all the produce or the vegetables that we freeze or the fruits have to be blanched, but some of them do. Blanching is a method of putting, let's say, green beans. Okay. Taking the green beans, putting them in boiling water for a few minutes. It depends upon the amount and the quantity that you're doing. And let's say you do that for a few minutes, and then you plunge them into ice water to stop the cooking. So what you're doing by plunging them into the hot boiling water is you're stopping the enzymes from growing. The enzymes are what cause vegetables to mature. So if they keep maturing in the freezing process, they're not going to taste very good. So we want to stop that maturation process. So that's why we blanch, to stop that.
I thought it was to kill germs.
Well, you should wash them first. You
Okay.
should wash any produce first to get rid of any germs or anything. But no, blanching is really to stop the enzymatic growth.
And
So
that's why when
stop the
things come out of
maturation.
when they come out of the freezer and you're using them, they taste fresh.
Correct, correct. And you know, at home we can't duplicate what they can do commercially. Their process is so perfected that, you know, a lot of the frozen vegetables that we get commercially are, you know, really do taste fresh. We can't quite do that at home, but you know, it's a great way to preserve your product, and depending upon how you want to use it. You know, a lot of people don't like frozen green beans, or they tell me they don't like frozen green beans, but you know, if you want to use your green beans in soup or stew or casserole or in the slow cooker, something like that, they're going to cook longer, they're going to soften, you know, they're going to be fine. So, you know, you just have to think through what you want to do. Do I want to freeze it, and how do I want to use it later? Do I want to take time to process it, to can it now and then use it later? Or do you want to dry things? Drying is another technique that for herbs, if you have herbs in your garden or herbs in your landscaping or in your pots that you want to dry for use later on, you know, drying, getting a food dehydrator is a great way to do that. So there's just so many different ways that you can do things. But what I want to share with those viewing is that if anyone is really interested in learning more about home food preservation, we have classes that we can have available for people in the area. But you know, if you're really interested, and if you want to give our office a call and put your name on the waiting list that I am interested in home food preservation classes, we will be glad to offer some of those this processing season so that people can really learn and understand what they're doing and do it safely.
Is it as complicated as it seems?
It depends upon what you do.
Okay.
I think there are some things that are more complicated than other things. I think it's really important for people not to shortcut and try to take shortcuts in processing. It's very, very important for food safety reasons alone to follow the step-by-step directions that are in any of these recommended guides that we talked about earlier, the USDA guidebook, the Ball Blue Book, or the So Easy to Preserve cookbook. There's the University of Georgia is our National Center for Home Food Preservation. It has a great website. It even has, if you want to just learn a little bit, it has a video tutorial on their website that you can click on, and you can participate in that and then print off a certificate that you've learned something about home food preservation. So that's a great resource. You know, we just want people to enjoy canning or processing at home, but we also want them to do it safely, and that's the key, to keep our families safe, to follow research, reliable based information.
And they should contact you for more information.
I'll be glad to help out.
Jan, thank you very much for being our guest.
Okay.
We hope you learned something about preserving food at home. It's, you know, it's the season when we're going to have all kinds of things to do to preserve, and there are safe ways to do it. Make sure you look that up online or get a cookbook or contact Jan to find out more information. Thank you for watching WJTS Inform. We are local people watching local people.